during the housing crisis when we actually started flipping homes. And many of the PE-backed organizations jumped into the market pace. A lot of the private equity groups themselves, Blackstone, BlackRock, they started purchasing property all across the country. And this is the model that we decided that we were going to, risk the company on, the future of the company on. And it didn't go well to start. We had to, really crawl, walk, and then run. It was challenging to raise capital, challenging to get our hands on property. And I was responsible for actually going out and identifying capital. And it took a long time, Brian. When I tell you it took a long time, it took a long time. We were turning over every rock from hard money assets all the way through. Scott was sending me out to Wall Street to talk to pension funds. I'm like, I don't know if I have the chops to make this happen. And it wasn't until we got down to the wire, we got our first investment from, AAA Insurance. And then that we got a couple other investments, and then the ball started rolling. We got some momentum. So that was, my first lesson is it always takes longer than you think. And patience is absolutely everything.
In today's episode, we sit down with Darrell Teat, a man who once chased an NBA dream and later found a higher court to play on, the arena of leadership. Growing up in Fairfield, California, Darrell's vision was sharp. He could see himself under the lights, ball in hand. But when the buzzer on that chapter sounded, he was left searching for a new playbook. Then, in a single moment of clarity, he discovered a path that would redefine not just his career, but his calling. What followed was a journey that fused faith, mentorship, and the art of leading people well. Proof that purpose doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it unfolds quietly, in the right room, with the right guide. Stay with us, because Darrell's story reminds us that every dream, even the ones we outgrow, is just practice for the life we are meant to lead. Darrell, welcome to the One Away Show.
Well, it's great to be here, Brian. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to meet you again. You're up in Sacramento, correct? Is that right?
Absolutely. In the 916.
A few hours north of me. We had a great first chat. I think this is going to be a really awesome conversation, and you're in for a treat. Darrell, what is the one away moment that you want to share with us today?
That was a very good question when you posed it to me. I had quite a few to think about. But the one that I would like to share today is related to professional development journey and experience that I had back in 2009. It was called the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program, which is still going strong 16 years later. Transformational experience for me. Growing up in Fairfield, playing basketball, having this dream of making it to the NBA. And ultimately, playing Division I basketball, played a couple years after school. I always had this plan B, which was to be a CEO, but didn't know any CEOs. And so really didn't know the journey on how to get there. So the first part of my career was kind of dreary and dark. It was really cloudy. Playing basketball, I had the vision. I saw it every day. I saw it on TV, saw it on ESPN, saw it on ABC. This is what it looks like to play NBA basketball. But I didn't have that vision very clearly because I didn't know any CEOs or those that were former CEOs or even those that were on that trajectory. So it wasn't until 2009 when I went through the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program, which is a program developed by the Nehemiah Community Foundation that takes high potential young professionals between the ages of 25 to 45, 50. And it provides the tools, the resources, the information, and most importantly, the confidence and exposure on how to take your career to the next level. It was like adding jet fuel to the plane, and my career just took off from there.
Yeah. I like how you talked about me being a pro basketball player, and you had a visual cue. You could turn on the TV, you could watch your favorite players. Like you it was visible to you in a way that maybe it felt more attainable, or you just saw it in action, right? You can't just turn on the TV and watch someone run a business and kind of get commentary on it live. Although that would be pretty cool. Maybe, that's why there's like Silicon Valley shows that exist.
I'm a
But
lot older. We're back in the day they
yeah,
didn't have those. All right, Bryant.
so my question for you is like, you were clearly, you had two dreams at a younger age, a professional dream and then sports athletic, which is a professional dream in and of itself, but you had business aspirations beyond sport. Where did those aspirations in particular come from that was driving you to say, I want to be a CEO, I want to run a company? Like what was the pull in that direction for you?
Yeah, I've been coached and poured into from a very young age, from my parents, from my step parents, from my grandparents, aunts, uncles. My entire ecosystem had noticed that I had some natural leadership qualities. And once they identified that, they really were intentional about telling me I was a leader, about identifying ways that I can be a leader. And even during my basketball journey, I always ended up being blessed to serve as the captain of the men's basketball team at every stage. And, I knew that if basketball wasn't going to work out, and this was a conversation that I had with my parents around the 8th grade, they were like, hey, this basketball dream, I know you're going for it and you can go all in, but if that doesn't happen, what do you want to do? And I just knew that CEOs made a lot of money. That's what I heard. So I'm like, NBA players make a lot of money, CEOs make a lot of money. That's what I'll do. But I just didn't know what it really meant. So going back to your question, Brian, that pull towards being a CEO was just the innate leadership abilities that I was blessed to have, and then people pouring in and cultivating me over the course of my career.
Awesome. I like it. I mean, it's like you had good parents asking you good questions, and you kind of gave it a beat to actually think about yourself, your life, and maybe what was beyond basketball, what was beyond sport, which is great. Take us back to the young Darrell, like 8th grade, sophomore year of high school. You were probably, taking people, out back and crushing them on the court, but you were probably, thinking after, dried off and, took a shower and did your homework, etc. You were, thinking about career. Like what were you interested in back then? Was it finance? Was it biology? Was it like, what were your profession? Like, where were like the early foundational professional interest, then?
Ryan, I'm glad you gave me credit, but I didn't have any professional interest back then. All right. It was eat, sleep, drink, basketball. That was it. And I knew in order to get to my first step in the dream was to play Division I college basketball. Coming from a small town in Fairfield, I just had to be really good. So we would wake up in the morning before school, get shots in. After school, lunchtime, recess, whatever we can play, we played basketball. Even before we had a car, we would ride our bike 9 miles one direction to this basketball court in our town where everybody played. We got a chance to play the older guys. And during the summer, our dad would pick us up, take us to Travis Air Force Base, where we get a chance to play against the servicemen, people that we got to play against adults pretty much our whole middle school and high school careers that got us ready to play, really tougher competition. It really wasn't until I would say my sophomore year in college that I really started to think about what does life look like after basketball. And going to Santa Clara, right in the heart of Silicon Valley, I was exposed then to some CEOs. Like, okay, this is what it means to be a CEO. This is what it means to run a major business. And that's what got my wheels turning and started to really start investigating on some of the paths forward.
So let me ask you this. You said sophomore year, maybe the light bulb went off, or you started to maybe have, maybe not a full roadmap, but you maybe started to have glimpses. You had, you could turn your TV clicker on. It was in your backyard. The TV show was live. What were maybe some of the early things that you thought about from what you saw at a distance or arm's length, or maybe when you were able to peek in, that said, yeah, this is what I thought it was like to be a CEO versus what you've learned in your own career, which we'll get to. But I'm just curious kind of what the gaps were, and also like what was true for you once you kind of discovered.
Absolutely. Very good question. So I'll tell you, I was terrified once I realized what a CEO did. Um, at a sophomore in college, I got a chance to get a peek behind the curtain. That's especially some of the gentlemen were running, very large companies. I would see some of the complex issues that they were working with, particularly people. They would talk about lawsuits. They were talking about risks that they took. They were talking about loans. But then I did see the payoff and the freedom that they had to make decisions, the joy that they had when they were able to be a blessing to other people when the company was doing well. So they gave me both sides of the spectrum, but it was a very small sample size. There was like 2, 3 CEOs I got the opportunity to see. None of them looked like me. So that's another. I was like, okay, well, none of these CEOs look like me. Do I even have a chance? So it goes back to that vision that I was referring to earlier. As a youngster watching college basketball, NBA basketball, I saw a lot of people that looked like me on the court. So I'm like, okay, that's a path for me. But San Jose, Santa Clara, I didn't see that. So I wasn't quite sure if it would even happen for me, or to be quite candid, if I had the skill set, the chops, and the background to even make it happen.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm just to replay back to you, what I'm hearing is turned on the TV clicker and it was easy to see yourself in those shoes. But maybe when you looked in other parts of your backyard and you looked at CEOs, you probably didn't see the image of you and your future self as clearly or as noticeably, with what was out there. So what did it take for you to say, I can be that too? Or like, what do you have to maybe overcome inside to say, you know what, like, no, I always call for what it is because of the color of my skin. Like, it doesn't mean I can't do that too. Like, what was that gap that you had to close for you? And what did you start to do to work to overcome it?
Great question. So a couple of things happened. Number one, I really had to reflect back on the lessons that my parents and all my family members had really taught me all throughout my life, is that I'm a natural leader. And people just were able to gravitate towards my leadership style because of my spirit. And they said, Darrell, you want what's best for other people. That's why there's a whole subset of people, and it was a diverse subset of people. Basketball teams are extremely diverse, that follow your leadership style. So as I was starting to go through this journey and trying to explore it, they really encouraged me to start breaking down those limited beliefs, even though I didn't see many CEOs, if any at all, that looked like me. And then it was getting the exposure, going through the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders program. And this was when I was 30 years old. And they opened the door to a host of leaders at varying levels throughout civic service, throughout the private sector, and throughout government that were running companies and in senior leadership, significant leadership roles throughout the country. So then all of a sudden I had this visibility. And there was a gentleman named Scott Syfax who founded the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders program. He asked us a question one day after we had a couple of, high profile leaders come and tell us about their journey. And he asked a question. He said, what's the difference between them and you? And we had all these different examples. He's like, really, the only difference is they're 20 years older than you guys. That's it. So imagine where you'll be 20 years from now, having now learned their journeys, their roadmaps, the insight that they provided you, some of the tools and resources that you're gaining through this program. All of a sudden, it was like the light bulb went off. And we're like, it's not if, it's just a matter of when it happens. As long as we continue to develop our skill set, continue to work on our mindset. Number one, for me, it was 100% mindset. It was confidence. It was understanding who I really am. It was my relationship with God grew. So my faith and ability to take risk, and then staying true to the core competencies and the character of who I am as a person. to really want to use my gifts and skills to be a blessing to other people. All those things were codified over a 3-year period. And then my career took off from there.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like would it be fair or safe to call it maybe like a boot camp, like this, like, because it sounds like a condensed period of just like a lot of learnings, people pouring into you, but you also pouring into you as well, right? Is that, yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you said the career took off. Like, make that tangible for those that don't know you, right? Like, what happened then? Like, it sounds like you were like in the dark room. You were in your kind of rocky cutscene moment for a few years, and whoosh, right? Like, tell us about that launch.
So after the Emerging Leaders Program, the gentleman who I mentioned, Scott Syfax, also ran the Nehemiah Corporation of America, which was a real estate development and a real estate financing company. He hired me into the company to be the special assistant to him. For some reason, he picked me out of all the people that wanted to participate in this program, 16 of us, out of about 150 that were nominated, 16 actually got in the program. So that was a blessing in itself. He hired me, he mentored me, and he said, listen, this is our deal. I will teach you to be a CEO, and you'll just have to be the best employee I ever had. How about that? And he upheld his end of the bargain. I'm not sure if I upheld the end of mine, but ultimately, as he taught me how to be a CEO and mentored me really intentionally, I became president of the Nehemiah Corporation of America. We raised capital on Wall Street. We built a 65-acre infill project. We flipped 2,500 homes across the country. We gave away 20 homes mortgage free, which is a phenomenal experience. I was on Monday Night Football with the CEO of Bank of America, with Tom Brady and Cam Newton at Panther Stadium in Charlotte, donating a home to a veteran who had lost her husband in Afghanistan and had a 1-year-old child. So I will never forget the look on her face when we gave her the keys to her house. We paid for a year of taxes. We furnished the home. And that's the first opportunity where I really saw the ability to do well and do good come to fruition, because Nehemiah operated as a social enterprise. From there, I was started serving on nonprofit boards. Nonprofit boards turned into corporate boards. Now I serve as the compensation committee chairman of a private sector company, several $100 million in the environmental consulting space. I've been interim CEO for several companies as a consultant. And now I'm very fortunate to run a company called Core, which provides interim and fractional executive services. So think CEO, COO, CFO. So we have a host of fractional CFOs working with small and medium-sized companies across the country. And the other side of our business is small and medium companies outsource their accounting, their finance, the HR, technology, and some of their administration work to us. So we're a back source support company as well, back office support company as well. We have companies, people that work across the globe. And so that's what I mean. Went from not being able to see a CEO or how to go along that journey to ultimately running a company that's working across the globe. It's been a blessing.
Yeah, that's amazing. And, what an opportunity, right? To like learn under the wing of someone. I'm sure you upheld your end of the bargain, given the trajectory it's taken. Before we kind of dive in, by the way, I love the name Core for given what's under the core of that company. It makes total sense. When you had the opportunity to learn and you were said, I'm going to teach you how to be a CEO and you be the best employee. As you kind of look back at that experience, what would you say the 3 to 4 pivotal things, or maybe 2, that like you draw on to this day that completely shaped and molded how you show up as a leader, CEO, executive in your day to day?
Absolutely. So number 1 is give people the room to take risk and fail. Uh, I got I was very fortunate that Scott gave me room to take risk, and room to fail, and to actually be able to not, now these weren't critical flaw failures or errors, but they were enough to make me need to reflect, to think about the path that I would have gone down, if I had to do it all over again. So that's number one. Number two is, what is my general leadership philosophy around people? Because people, as they say, is a company's greatest asset. People are absolutely everything. And when we're talking about people, culture is the cornerstone of any successful company, any successful family, any successful group. So creating a culture of celebration, a culture of collaboration, and creating a culture of thinking big, because many times we'll put the limits on our own self. And from a leadership perspective, the company will only think as big as I can. So oftentimes, so that is another thing that I learned. And the final thing that I'll share with you is, sometimes it's okay to be a close follower. You don't always have to be on the bleeding edge, but you can learn from companies and people who have gone before you. Take some of the things that they did extremely well, remix it so that it works just right for you. And then you actually sometimes can really accelerate past them in a competitive opportunity.
Interesting. So I love how you're talking about culture and kind of, treating people the right way. I also love what you were talking about with, letting people risk and fail. I do think there's a tendency to protect, and I've seen it firsthand, in our company, a number of ways, but also like the forgiving people the freedom and seeing like how good they can be, right? It's a delicate balance, but and I also really love what you said as well, of kind of ingesting and absorbing different nuggets and then kind of piecing them together in ways that work for you and then ultimately allow you to crush an opportunity that comes your way. So I think that's amazing that was modeled for you in real time. And you were what, you said early 30s when you learned all this?
I was early 30s. I was extremely fortunate.
Wow. Yeah. Very, very fortunate. Just so I have a context and understanding, Darrell, like your parents, like growing up, like what were their careers? Like what were they, bestowing upon you? And, what was the narrative and kind of your eyes on that front? I mean, I want to talk about today, but I'm just, even though you were in Santa Clara, this was in front of your eyes, like you still had to like ultimately decide this is what you wanted for you. Like this wasn't just, so yeah, just curious kind of the models around you as well.
So my parents divorced when I was 12. We stayed with my dad, but my mom was always in our life. And, our dad worked for the civil service. Great, I'll say great role model of what it meant to show up every day and do your job with excellence. Our mom taught us about deep sense of responsibility. Because she was always there and continues to always be there. I'm actually at my mom's house recording this podcast today in Las Vegas. That relationship that we have and continue to have had and continue to have with our parents really shaped both my brother and I and how we focus, how we show up for family, and how we take responsibility. Our mom worked for my grandmother's business, which, I always say I didn't have a vision for a corporate CEO, but, when I reflect and got a little older, my grandma was an entrepreneur. Her and my grandpa had a convenience store in Vallejo, California. I didn't really know what that meant growing up, but I used to just go to the store and they owned it. And then, later in life, when I was in high school, she actually opened up 4 homes for the developmentally disabled in Redding, California. And she ran that business as well. So while she didn't necessarily talk to us about entrepreneurship, we knew that it was because of what she was doing provided some of us with the opportunities to, go to basketball camps and things of that sort. Grandma was always coming through. So I've had people in our life, my brother and I have had people in our life that just consistently poured into us and talked to us about leadership and what it means to be responsible for what you've been blessed with.
Yeah. Seems like your mom, I mean, it's neat that you and your mom have sounds like amazing relationship right now. You're at our house. I mean, I think it's so important to have moms in the development of their kids. I've seen it firsthand and feel so grateful on my side. But for you, it sounds like she did a great job with you. Shout out mom in Las Vegas. What's her name? So we all know.
Her name is Donna Benton.
Donna Benton?
Benton, Benton.
Donna Benton. All right. Donna Benton. Nice work. So it sounds like your mom was a great role model for you, poured into you and showed you what was possible in a number of ways. Well, also Darrell, you made your own path, and it's cool to kind of think about how the role of our parents in our lives, whether they were super close to us or not, they influence how we do things regardless. So, thanks for giving her a shout. So talk to me about, you were at this company, it was called Nerve. What's the name of that?
Nehemiah Corporation of America. Yep.
Nehemiah, and really getting it sounds like a world-class learning tour of how to become a true leader and manage teams. What were some of the you talked about raising some capital, the homes that were flipped, less mortgaged, and the impactful work. When you look at that experience, right? Well, seems like taught you so much. What were maybe some of the sheer growth moments? Maybe you didn't know if you were going to be able to succeed, or you didn't know if it was right for you. Like what comes to mind when you think about being in the trenches of that, fire around kind of what stands out as you look back on that core experience?
So a couple of things. I'll give you two stories. So one was, this was during the housing crisis when we actually started flipping homes, and many of the PE-backed organizations jumped into the market pace. A lot of the private equity groups themselves, the Blackstone, BlackRock, they started purchasing property all across the country. And this is the model that we decided that we were going to, risk the future of the company on. And it didn't go well to start. We had to, really crawl, walk, and then run. It was challenging to raise capital. It was challenging to get our hands on property. And I was responsible for actually going out and identifying capital. And it took a long time, Brian. When I tell you it took a long time, it took a long time. And we were turning over every rock from hard money assets all the way through. Scott was sending me out to Wall Street to talk to pension funds. And I'm like, I don't know if I have the chops to make this happen. And it wasn't until, we got down to the wire, that, we got our first investment from, AAA Insurance. And then we got a couple other investments. And then the ball started rolling. We got some momentum. So that was, my first lesson is it always takes longer than you think. And patience is absolutely everything from a leadership perspective. And because it takes longer than you think, and you have to be really thoughtful about setting clear expectations with your team about timing, because they can lose faith really, really quickly if it starts to take longer as well. So that's one thing that I learned. The other was I'll share this one because it's so many lessons.
This is great, by the way.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
If you're a founder looking to grow without raising capital or giving up control, Relent is built for you. Founded by entrepreneurs who've scaled without outside funding, Relent helps companies find and retain talent, lower operational costs, and reinvest in growth. We've hired nearly 10 team members through Relent and streamlined our entire cost structure, freeing up capital to put toward what matters most. Even small teams can set up offshore operations quickly, compliantly, and without heavy infrastructure. With deep expertise in the India-US corridor, Relent combines cultural fluency with operational rigor and guides everything from team design to long-term scaling. Grow on your terms and start with Relent. To learn more, visit relent.team/arcbound. What's given your CEO and leadership background and kind of how you see to communicate this effectively? How would you advise your younger self, right? It sounds like you might know what you need to do. Maybe you could, get some expertise and help. But, if you were to teach somebody who's going to then go communicate this vision and help you do it, what would you say is important? How would you go about it? Walk me through the roadmap in your head today.
Absolutely. Very good question. So first thing I would say is, if I was coaching my younger self, is to build systems on the important parts of what you need to execute early. My best friend, Chris Johnson, gave me a quote that I never forgotten. This was when we were both going through graduate school. He said, Darrell, what I learned out of everything I learned in graduate school is create extraordinary systems so ordinary people can achieve the extraordinary. And I was like, that's it. I just need to create extraordinary systems so that no matter who is in that particular role can achieve extraordinary results. So I would give that advice to myself. And that's actually the process that I'm going through right now with being able to communicate more effectively, is revising my communication system, which allows for me to get out in front of things more quickly, to communicate more often, and actually to be able to pinpoint exactly what it is that our colleagues need to hear, but also what they want to hear in order for us to continue for our culture to thrive. So that's how I would coach my younger self on creating systems in order to be a better communicator.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I also agree. I think you learn the hard way as a leader when you realize, hey, you can't do everything yourself. But what was even more fascinating is you said being a good communicator, not for you to kind of beat your chest, but if you're a good communicator, you're going to help everyday people achieve great results because you communicated so clearly of what needs to get done, which I think is remarkable. Just the framing of what you just shared, I think quite deep from just a business philosophy perspective. When you, I think, hear a lot of leaders say, I need to communicate from my own, presence, which I do think is also important in some regards. So you're saying, I need to do this so our team can be more effective, which I think is awesome. What, we got on the call last time, you were telling me about your one son who's playing basketball at Sacramento State. Is that right?
You got it.
Wow. I didn't even watch our last recording. This is good. Do you have any other kids? I want to ask a question about family and leadership and being a father, but any other kids to mention before I ask?
Absolutely. We have a 22-year-old daughter who just graduated from Cal State Northridge back in May. She is now going through a program to become a certified esthetician, and then will be pursuing to become a nurse after that. She has this vision. I won't say she has a vision to own a health and wellness company. She's had this vision since she's been a freshman in college, and we're actually got to about a year ago modeling what the operations would look like, what the financial forecast could look like, and what role she would have to play in order to make that come to fruition, especially if mom and dad are her first investors. So she understood that she needed to self-perform some services, and that's why she decided to go the esthetician route. She quickly realized that if she became a nurse, she could then perform higher dollar services herself and didn't have to hire the expertise. So 22-year-old daughter who's on a phenomenal path, has an awesome spirit.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, son, a daughter who's clearly trying to take on the world, and sounds like two amazing kids that you have. That's cool. When you think about how you've raised them, and you think about principles you've instilled, what's been your parenting style in terms of letting them become who they want to be, and fostering their own development? Like how's that translated from what you've learned in business and from your own mother to how you apply that to kids of your own?
Very good question. I'll tell you, I have not been asked that question on any of the podcasts I've been blessed to serve on. So I'll tell you this. First off and foremost, our kids wouldn't be who they are, and I wouldn't be who I am without my wife. My wife, Lanisha, is my first girlfriend. We've been married for 24 years now. She is a true blessing that has let me grow into the person that I am today. Believe me, I'm not the person I am today. I wasn't this person when we met. I can tell you that. And she's been with me every step of the way. And, us being able to be uniformed and aligned to what the vision was for our kids and the type of people and character that we wanted them to hopefully have is what allowed for us to be able to really hone in on a couple things. Number one, we wanted them to understand who they were as being a reflection in the image of God. That's first off and foremost. And from there, we wanted them to be able to take those principles of love and peace and joy and happiness to be able to understand that they are a light when they walk into the room. No matter what room they go into, they should set the temperature, and to not let the outside world really dictate the way that they show up, because they're on a mission. Whatever room they're in, they have a mission to bring light to that room and to actually be someone to uplift whatever is going on in that room. And they have the gifts to do that. So over the course, I think it started maybe in their middle school years, we started to be really serious about helping them identify what some of their gifts are and to help, pour into those gifts and hone those gifts and to see which ones they actually really resonated with and wanted to continue to develop on them themselves. So we have, that's been our parenting style, to really help them get positioned in a way that they understand who they are, so that we can hopefully help them build unshakable confidence, unshakable peace, and focus on an abundance life and mindset rather than a lack. And when I say abundance rather than lack, it is be really thankful and grateful for everything that they have and not focus on what we don't have. Because you miss the blessings of life, and that's where angst, anxiety, and worry starts to come in. And then when you're operating at peace and in gratitude, you're actually more productive. You see more opportunities. You're more positive, and then you are able to use your gifts to be a blessing to other people. And then the final thing is, I'll say, once they got to high school, we started letting them take risks that wouldn't kill them. So like, hey, if this isn't going to kill them, let them take the risk, even if we knew it wasn't going to work out. Because oftentimes you learn through your, Kobe Bryant says there's no failures, there's just lessons. So you learn through your lessons along life. And then, hopefully you learn not to repeat them again. So those have been a couple of the cornerstones of how we show up and how we raised our kids.
Wow. Seems like great operating principles for raising a family. I wish I had a front row seat to that, but we'll give your wife the credit. It seems like she's the one who really shaped you and took a chance on you, and she saw something in you clearly. But
she is. We give her all the credit all the time.
That's right. That's like your successful marriages. That's key cornerstones. The wife's credit for everything.
Absolutely.
So seems like you've learned. Darrell, this has been a treat, no pun intended, to your last name, which almost sounds like a treat. Is it Darrell Teat? Is that how you say it?
Yep, Darrell Teat. Yep.
It was a treat with Mr. Teat. I'm sure you've heard that before. So
all the time.
There you go. Well, Darrell, this is actually, I loved their first chat. I love their second chat even more. It's great to get to know the man behind the soft spoken voice with the sounds like strong ambition and raised a family and done all the things in a very meaningful way. So great to get to know you a little bit deeper, and I'm excited to follow along in the paths that you're on. So where can people find you and reach out to you?
So first off, before I let them know where they can find me and reach out, thank you, Brian, for the invitation to appear. I love the conversation. I love the genuine nature in which you are really inquisitive and want to learn about us. So you got a bright future ahead of you in podcast hosting if you choose to continue to do it, man. I appreciate you. And you can learn more about CORE at our website, www.core, which is CXORE.com, CXORE.com. You can also reach me at DTEAT, so first initial, last name, at core.com. I try to respond within 24 hours because like you, I just love to learn about people, what their businesses are doing and how we can help.
Darrell, it's a pleasure. Thanks for the compliment. Lucky I've done this 100 times, so hopefully I'm half decent at it. But it's a small sliver of what I do, but enjoy meeting fascinating people on the journey like yourself. What a joy. And we'll be cheering you on.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Keep making it happen.
Darrell Teat's story lingers, a reminder that leadership begins where certainty ends. What started on the hardwood became something far deeper, a mission to lift others, to build systems that serve, and turn vision into legacy. He spoke of risk and resilience, of faith and family, and the quiet power of letting others rise beside you. The kind of leadership that leaves fingerprints, not footprints. If his journey stirred something in you, share this episode with someone finding their footing. And remember, the One Away Show returns every Tuesday and Friday, with more stories of people who took one chance and found their purpose waiting on the other side.